Hey there guys, it's Alex here. I've been wanting to make a video on Patrick for a while now, and as many of you know, I included a few clips of him in my history of bodybuilding video, but provided no context at all as to what actually happened to him. Well, in this video I want to address why he ended up in the position he was in, kind of touch on the dangers of steroids and what they can actually do to your body and the strain they put on the organs. But more importantly, I want to kind of showcase the courage and strength of Patrick himself, as well as his girlfriend Simona, who throughout this have clearly kind of battled through it, and it seems they're both living a relatively good and fruitful life at the moment, which is very good to see. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on to the video. On November the 10th, 2020, Simona Chira's phone rang. She picked up, and on the other end of the line was one of Patrick's close friends. He told her that Patrick had gone into cardiac arrest. Simona felt her body go into shock before letting out a despairing scream. Patrick had flown to Turkey 2 days earlier to have cosmetic surgery on his eyes and jaw in preparation for his imminent wedding with Simona. During this surgery, his kidney count had accelerated rapidly, which induced a severe cardiac arrest on the doctor's operating table. This resulted in Patrick going into a coma. News outlets such as the Danish newspaper Ud og Hjem later reported that Patrick had been effectively dead for 70 minutes in the Turkish Cosmetic hospital before the doctors were able to revive him. Patrick worked as a security guard and was an avid bodybuilder who cared about his appearance, while Simona had originally come from Romania but had settled in Denmark with Patrick. They had previously travelled to Turkey in order to have similar cosmetic operations performed. The wedding was scheduled to take place during the summer of 2020, but corona restrictions postponed the wedding for a year. It was then that Patrick decided to travel to Turkey to have surgery so that he would look good for his wedding with Simona. After receiving the phone call from Patrick's friend, Simona flew over to Turkey as soon as she could. When she arrived at the hospital in Turkey, the strong bodybuilder now lay in a bed with his eyes closed. A white sheet covered him from the hips down, while there were several imprints from a defibrillator on his chest. He was connected to lots of machinery that, among other things, helped him breathe because his body couldn't do it on its own. There was talk of turning off his respirator because the chances of him waking up were so slim, but due to him being only 26 and Simona's staunch refusal, the doctors agreed to keep supplying oxygen. She kept hoping for a miracle, and after 10 days it was decided that Patrick should be flown home to Denmark in an ambulance plane and transferred to Kolding Hospital so that he was closer to friends and family. On the 16th day after the original operation, Patrick finally opened his eyes. Patrick's progress was gradual, eventually managing to use his hand to squeeze Simona's. In the 3 weeks after the tragic incident, Patrick, a previously muscle-bound man, had lost 35 kilograms. Patrick was not brain dead as the doctors had predicted, but he had suffered severe brain damage after being effectively dead for 70 minutes. For the next several months, Patrick was in rehab, but in April, Simona persuaded the staff at the rehab centre to let Patrick return home. Although the doctors didn't think he was quite ready, they eventually sanctioned the move. However, this required Simona to fully take care of Patrick. His brain damage makes it difficult for him to do simple things that he used to do with ease. He struggles to remember things that are said to him and cannot formulate long sentences. So there's an account of the whole ordeal, but how exactly did this all happen in the first place? It was stated in the doctor's report that the cosmetic surgery was not the cause of the cardiac arrest. Instead, it was perceived to be triggered by kidney failure. This had consequently led to high potassium levels in the blood, known as hyperkalemia. Simona has made a TikTok explaining in detail the reasons behind Patrick's cardiac arrest, but I'll do a brief description for the purposes of this video. After Patrick's arrival in Turkey, he went to have the pre-surgery checkup, which included a blood test. The results appeared entirely normal. Bizarrely, the test did not reveal any kidney damage or even the high potassium levels in the blood. The normal potassium level in the blood is around 3.6 to 5.2 millimoles per litre. If it goes beyond 5, then this can lead to cardiac dysthymias. Patrick's level was at 7 during the operation, which obviously caused monumental issues. The doctors believed it was Patrick's abuse of steroids over a number of years which caused his kidney to fail. Simona states that the surgery had nothing to do with his cardiac arrest and it would have happened anyway. Thankfully, he was actually in the hospital when it eventually did take place. But how exactly did the years of steroid abuse cause this kidney failure and consequent cardiac arrest? So it seems to be a commonly known fact that steroids affect the kidneys in a bad way. But unless you fully examine the science behind it, it can be difficult to fully comprehend why. Well, let's break it down. When a person injects anabolic steroids, it obviously enters the bloodstream. The steroid acts as a synthetic derivative of the naturally produced hormone testosterone, which is the driving force behind building muscle. Basically, Patrick was injecting such a large amount of steroids that his frame was effectively too big for his organs to fully handle. There was too much muscle, which places a greater burden on the organs, particularly the kidneys, which are vital at filtering the potassium out of the blood and maintaining the requisite level. Potassium generally gets into the body through the foods you eat, medications or IV infusions. The excessive steroids ultimately caused Patrick's kidneys to falter, damaging the essential filtration system and leaving a dangerous amount of potassium in the bloodstream. This is known as renal failure. The excessive potassium led to hyperkalemia, which can then lead to ventricular fibrillation, which is a type of irregular heart rhythm. The lower heart chambers contract in a very rapid and uncoordinated fashion, meaning the heart is incapable of pumping blood to the rest of the body. Unfortunately, in Patrick's case, this meant oxygen was no longer being pumped to the brain, leading to a deprivation known as cerebral hypoxia. After 10 minutes without oxygen, brain death ultimately occurs, leading to a coma. Patrick's brain, from all accounts, was deprived of oxygen for 70 minutes, inducing his coma. The doctors then used defibrillators to get the heart pumping properly. From my research, it appears that Patrick's former employers are providing him with sustenance payments in the form of retirement funds. I'm also guessing that he will be receiving an allowance from the Danish state. I've seen suggestions that Simona and Patrick are no longer together, which, if true, is very unfortunate, but I ultimately can't confirm this. Patrick appears to have ventured back into the gym, which is very good to see, and also seems to have a good network of friends that he can rely on. If this video does well, then I think I'll try and contact Patrick to provide him with a portion of the proceeds, as I'm keen to help him out in any way possible. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and please be very careful if you are considering or are a steroid user, as it can be hugely detrimental to one's health. Cheers.